Hello, this is Mike from Windows7Forums.com, and in this video we're going to discuss Internet Explorer 9. Internet Explorer 9 is an interesting piece of software in the fact that pretty much every review coming from Microsoft and other magazines seems to measure it in a sense that it's superior in every way to Firefox and Chrome. In this video we're going to examine both Chrome, Firefox, and Internet Explorer 9 and determine whether or not these three browsers are on an equal footing, or if one is in fact faster at rendering pages than the other. And we'll look at the reasons why that may be the case. I'm here with my friend and associate Joe Stackhouse,
Hello.
Who will be presenting with us. Joe?
All right. First, we're going to start out with the versions that we're currently using. Start with Firefox, and I'm going to put this on the main screen now. This is the latest version as of today. It's Firefox version 4. I do believe it's beta 11. I will show the help about so we can make sure here. Yes, it's 4.0 beta 11. It's up to date. So we'll go ahead and get that out of the way. And we're also going to be comparing Google Chrome, which I also have the latest as of today. And we'll look at the help about dialog for this as well. It's version 10.0.648.45. All right. So we've downloaded the latest version of IE9 here. As soon as I find the window, here it is. And the first part here, Mike, I'm going to go right into the install and I'll kind of describe the dialogues and we'll go from there.
Sounds great.
Fresh download. We'll go ahead and hit run. I should say I do already have IE9 preview installed, so this is my first release candidate. So we're going to see if it's going to just install over the top, or I don't know if it's going to ask me to remove the previous version. So we'll see here.
And this will be a good indicator for people who do have the beta version or one of the technical previews.
Yes, yes. Okay, so install Internet Explorer 9, get the most from the web. We'll see about that. It offers a fast, clean, and more trusted web browsing experience. And, you know, they've tried to add a lot of things from the phishing detector, all sorts of things to the latest versions, and I still remove viruses daily from people that use IE. So maybe we can find a way to test some of the new trusted web browsing experience, but... So it gives the license agreements. It's funny, it doesn't actually show us the license agreement here. We have to click on a link to view it, which Chrome is my default browser, so Chrome is going to show us the IE9 license agreement. Probably nothing interesting here. Don't sue us if it crashes your system, yada yada. It's taking a little while to load. Yeah, here we go.
One of the interesting things about Chrome is that, and Internet Explorer itself, IE9, we'll find out soon enough, it surely looks a lot like Google Chrome.
It does. It does. Everything from the, I think some of the new way it handles favorites, if I'm not mistaken. Just a couple of the different things, but yeah. They're really slimming down the interface, you know?
Indeed.
Do you want to talk about the license terms at all? I don't know if it tells us the requirements or anything like that.
No, I mean, the license agreement should be pretty straightforward, even though it's a legal document. And it's just ensuring that you don't violate Microsoft's intellectual property rights, which would involve reverse engineering the software, making bootleg copies of the software, editing the software, and then passing it off as your own, or doing other malicious things that pretty much... no one that we know does.
It's interesting. So. Down here in the very end, it says limitation and exclusions of remedies and damages. You can recover from Microsoft and its suppliers only direct damages up to $5 US. You cannot recover any other damages. Why did they say we'll give you $5? That makes no sense.
Well, yeah, that's kind of
maybe legally they had to say we'll give you something.
Right.
Okay.
$5 in case we.
Right. Okay, we'll go ahead and hit the install button. Let's see what happens here. I don't like the fact that they're... Okay, closing programs. It's detected that I have... Oh, that's interesting. Guess what's on the list of programs to close, Mike?
Chrome or Firefox?
Skype, Windows Explorer, Microsoft Security Client User Interface. That's my Microsoft Security antivirus.
Oh dear.
Expression encoder. I'm going to say ignore because otherwise we're going to lose our whole webcast here.
Yes. I am actually on a satellite feed directly from New York. And if we lose that, then it'll no longer be part of the presentation.
I'm going to go ahead and close Internet Explorer. But the rest of it, it does have an ignore option, and that's kind of nice. But it says if you use the ignore option, you might need to restart your computer later. So I'm guessing what they tried to go for here is a way of installing IE9 without restarting, but I'll bet you 90% of the systems out there will have to restart anyways. So they tried to get around it, but we'll continue anyway. I don't like the fact here that it's installing right now, and literally I have a window with just a progress bar, no description, no nothing. It's just installing.
And you have no idea what it's doing.
Yeah, I have no idea what it's doing. I remember at least 8 told you it was installing additional components, doing these different things, but 9 is just going at it. I don't know if this is because we're using the release candidate. Yeah, the final version maybe they'll add a little bit more detail. I'm not on a really powerful system here. This is just a P4 with 4 gigs of RAM. So this will probably install a little quicker for some of you folks out there. It's also Windows 7 32-bit with Service Pack 1.
Do you think we should come back after the install is complete?
It's about 33% right now. So we could talk about a couple things, or we could come back. We can decide later.
Yeah, let's definitely come back.
Okay, we're back. The system has rebooted. Didn't take very long. It did some configuring updates during the shutdown, and I do believe it also did a little bit of configuring during the login back to the desktop. So I'm going to go ahead and launch it for the first time here. What are the requirements for IE9, Mike?
Well, Joe, unfortunately, you have to have Windows 7 or Windows Vista Service Pack 2 or greater.
Okay.
So if you're running Windows Vista without Service Pack 2 or Windows XP, you will not be able to use the software. It's also important to point out how the development of this software progressed. There were actually 8 platform previews of Internet Explorer 9. Some of them included better JavaScript performance, CSS3 improvements here and there. But during Google Chrome's development, there were like times where there would be 10 development builds a day being leaked out by Google for testing. So that just sort of shows you the different type of approach that both companies went towards when developing this software.
Yeah, in fact, the IE9 preview that I had installed, I didn't really keep it up to date, but I do keep my Chrome beta up to date, and it's usually every other day there's a new build out. So yeah.
Yeah.
So this is our first launch. We're on the Welcome to a More Beautiful Web. If you use the preview or the IE9 preview toolkit, you're probably used to this page by now. Gives you a few updates about your upgrade. Down here at the bottom we get the IE9. This has been in, I think, since the preview. Speed up browsing by disabling add-ons option. It walks you through. It will actually tell you, what add-ons and how long they're taking. Look, my Adobe PDF link helper is taking 0.3 seconds to load, yada yada. So we'll just ignore that for now. I already know what that does.
That new add-on feature can be useful, but it can also be annoying because for those of you who have been using Internet Explorer for a long time, you probably just want your add-ons, and you probably know that it slows it down already. But it could be useful.
You know what I'd like to see is an option saying when the last time add-ons were used. I think that would be useful.
Right. I'm not so sure. That could be built into it. I'm not so sure that there should be an add-on. That should just be part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Where are we going to go from here, Mike?
Well, if you want to take a look at the browser, we could talk more about what's included and how it differs from Firefox and Chrome.
All right.
does Internet Explorer 9 actually load faster than Chrome and Firefox? And when we talk about loading, what's the definition? Because that seems to be a very easy sort of out for a lot of marketing departments. Does it load, as in does it boot up faster? You know, does the application start faster? Or our page is actually loading faster? And one of the ways that was measured as far as loading pages, I believe, was the ACID 3 test, which many people have criticized as not really giving a real world sort of a look at whether, you know, how good a web browser is. But why do you want to try to run Internet Explorer 9, Chrome, and Firefox through the ACID 3 test?
Absolutely. In fact, we'll do it one after another. So let me set up that test, and we'll be right back.
Well, we're back, everyone, and here we are. We're about to do the ACID test.
I've currently set all 3 web browsers to have ACID 3 as their homepage. I've also disabled my Chrome extensions that I have installed to make sure that doesn't really affect. I could disable... You think I should disable my IE9 extensions, or...
Nah, give it a try, see what happens.
It's like 0.2 seconds or something. Okay. So we'll close down IE9 and we'll start with, well, IE9. Let's see here. Click, and we're waiting. And we're waiting. Now, this is going to be a little slower than usual just because we're doing a lot of recording here. ACID test. And we'll move Mike over here out of the way a little bit. There we go.
I don't like being moved around like that, but okay.
95 out of 100.
Yeah, there we go. 95 with Internet Explorer 9. And I'd like to do the ACID test on 8. I'll give you an idea of that, but go ahead.
All right, so you're going to go ahead and do 8?
You won't be able to see this, actually, but that's fine.
I'll go ahead and do Chrome. And then when this is done, I'll open all 3 of these again on the same monitor here so you can see... oh, wow. I guess I didn't set the ACID to be my homepage. I thought I did. Well, let me fix that real quick.
Explorer 8, it was actually 20 out of 100.
Really? Wow, they've done a lot of improvements.
Yeah.
All right.
But mind you, those improvements may have already been done by their competitors.
Right, yeah. Especially since now everybody seems to have access to the WebKit source code. It's not hard to look and see how things have been done.
Correct.
I'm going to go grab the URL from IE9 here because I didn't have it set to my Google Chrome homepage, which I thought I did, but minor thing we'll fix here real quick. It must not have kept my settings. Oh. You know what? That's probably why right there. Okay. And we'll do again a side-by-side test of the speed here after we're done looking at these ACID tests. So, okay, we're launching Chrome. It seemed to launch a little bit faster than 9. Why is it not going to ACID? Mike, are you watching me do this?
Yes.
Tools, options. Open this page. Open the open the home page. All right. We can edit that out, hopefully.
I won't worry about it.
Okay. Google Chrome ACID test. Like I said, it seemed to load a little bit faster than IE9. Although it seems to be running the test a little bit slower, but it did get 100 out of 100.
Yep. So, Chrome still beats out Internet Explorer 9 in terms of the ACID 3 test.
Absolutely. Let's see what Firefox does. I don't have an icon for it, so we're doing the old start run method here.
Yes.
I don't use Firefox very often anymore. Ever since I started using Chrome, it just became obsolete to me.
I just have the idea it's going to get like a 95 for some reason. 96.
Yeah, on the same kind
95,
of...
actually.
Same core as... Uh-oh.
It only got a 50.
Oh, you know what? It's rendering us a lot slower than Chrome and IE. Do you notice? And my system doesn't have anything new, really.
That's unusual. I get a 95. Oh, there you go.
97.
That's quite unusual.
Interesting.
On mine, I got a 95, and Internet Explorer 9 got a 96.
Really? Interesting. Are you using the latest?
I'm not using the latest Firefox. That is correct. I'm using only the stable build, the current build that was released to the public.
All right. I'm going to close all these out now. They've all been loaded once, which means the operating system's already cached a little bit of information on each browser, so they'll probably all pop up much quicker now. But let's start with IE. Click. And pops up. Acid 3. It renders it fairly quickly. Notice the numbers shoot up pretty quick, Mike.
Right.
Okay.
I'm sorry there.
That's okay.
Yes, right.
95 out of 100. It's it loaded okay. Let's try Chrome. I can tell Chrome already popped up much quicker than IE. Well, I don't know how much quicker is defined as, but it seems to run the test about the same speed as IE. Only gets the 100 result, of course. And now back to Firefox. Firefox seems to be the slowest loading out of all three. I don't know if you have a similar experience on your machines, Mike, but...
No, I've actually found Firefox to be a little bit faster than Internet Explorer 9, but that's just been my experience.
Right. 97 out of 100? Okay. So if I would have to rate them, at least on this system, I think IE9 and Firefox probably load about the same. Chrome takes the cake, though. It really does. Not only does it get 100%, it just seems, as soon as I click it, it pops up. It's ready to go.
Absolutely. That was the same conclusion that I came to.
All right. Why don't we talk about some of the new features, Mike? And
Sounds great. Well, Internet Explorer 9 comes with a few unique features. The smart filtering that was in 8 has been upgraded a little bit more. So if you find yourself downloading a file, it'll actually take a look at that file, analyze it, and determine apparently how often it's been downloaded. It'll give you a warning on certain files if they haven't been downloaded that often, according to Microsoft, and it'll actually try to prevent you from running the file, but you should be able to save it without any difficulty. As far as being able for us to demonstrate that, I'm not sure we will be able to demonstrate that, but I found it to be quite a nuisance. But other people may find it as a saving grace in certain instances. But there's a few other features. Do you want to talk about those, Joe?
Yeah, about that feature right there, though. Yeah, I could find that very annoying, especially if you know what you're doing when you're downloading stuff. I'm wondering if it protects the drive-by downloads that we see all the time, where somebody goes to a page and immediately gets affected and exploits IE. That'll be interesting to see.
Right. And then, of course, that comes down to the philosophical question of who is responsible for their computer, the owner of the computer or the developer of the software.
Right. All right, well, do you want to dive into the Internet Explorer options dialog and see what new we find in there?
Sure, absolutely. Let's go through it.
All right.
If we go to options... Joe?
Yes, I'm in the options.
Oh, right. Sorry. Once you go to options, you'll find that everything pretty much looks the same. However, if you go over to privacy, that'll be something that you notice right away. And this is very misleading, and I'd like to discuss why. Do you have the geo IP location pulled up, Joe?
I do not. Let me find that.
Do you see that? Well, no, you do have it pulled up.
Yes, I do. Okay.
Yeah, see where it says never allow websites to request your physical location?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a problem with that feature because websites, whenever you connect to a website, they're logging your IP address, and there's a module for Apache, which is the most popular web server available. It's a Linux-based web server. It's a competitor of IIS. And those IP addresses are logged, and they can be resolved to a physical location at any time, for so long as this web server is using the GeoIP module. But any IP address can be geolocated, and basically this functionality is doing the same thing, except it is actually just reporting the IP address to the whatever is calling for the IP address, whether that be a PHP script or whatever function that IE is currently using to ask for the physical location. But there is no protection when you are browsing the web, for so long as you're not using a proxy. There's no protection for hiding or masking your physical location. As a matter of fact, for most people, at least in the United States, you can narrow it down to a couple blocks.
Yeah, mine is right down the street, not too far. I wouldn't be comfortable with some anonymous site knowing my location.
Yeah, so in this case, this is what we call security theater, which is something we saw at the airports recently, where we have a feature here that is for convenience, allows websites to ask for the person's location very easily, but clicking on never allow websites to request your physical location, that'll actually do nothing for you whatsoever. There is no privacy involved with that.
Right, and I find this feature, surprisingly enough, it's not checked by default, Mike.
Right. Well, that could be because the developers realized it pretty much does nothing.
Doesn't matter so far. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and check it, even though it's false security.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
If you go to Windows7Forums.com, we actually have a user map that's based on IP addresses, and we use those to map a random sample of people connected to the website onto a map of the world. And we use that without this IE feature. Now, this IE feature might make it easier for us, but we certainly won't follow the rules or justifications of that functionality, especially when 30% of our users are either using Chrome or Firefox.
It looks like I'm reading more on my other monitor here about this location service, and here's how they describe it. When you visit a website that uses location services, you can choose whether or not to allow the website to access your location information. And it's interesting how it gets it. If it not only, Mike, uses the IP, right? It actually uses Microsoft's location service. And I noticed if you have MapPoint installed, which is a mapping software from Microsoft, it installs this little service that sits down in your sys tray, and it can actually find your location. Not only it can find it using Wi-Fi points that it knows the name of around the country. So it actually, according to this, and this is a Microsoft article right on their website, it uses this service if it's enabled. It says Internet Explorer will contact a Microsoft location service to attempt to determine your computer's physical location. This service uses your IP address and data from nearby Wi-Fi access points if available. So they're directly looking at your Wi-Fi connection if this thing's unchecked.
Right. So there is a certain problem there with security, and it is unchecked by default. So this is a new feature that's been added, apparently to triangulate your location for probably for mostly what we use for advertising. I mean, let's be honest, contextual advertising and GeoIP-based advertising. I can't imagine a website really using it for anything other than that in most instances.
Yeah. That's very that's kind of concerning right there. I'm reading that all this is in IE9's privacy statement. If you look at that, it'll tell you what the feature does. Okay, so we found out that's probably one that I would hope the developers would enable by default in later builds.
Right, keep that off. Yes. It's funny that you would click on it to disable it.
Right, no. You think you click on to enable it.
Like, oh dear.
And why can't I manage my sites? Why can't I tell it a whitelist and a blacklist?
Exactly.
Deny everything but this site, you know? Okay.
Well, there's always that argument that there's a certain amount of development time that they have, and if they're going to use it, they're going to use it on something important. But I would think that the privacy of their users should be of the utmost importance. It certainly is for system administrators. But anyway, go ahead.
All right, well, what's the next feature that you want to talk about, Mike?
if you want to go over to see some of the new features that we have with Advanced, we can look at those and we can compare them somewhat to previous iterations of Explorer. Internet Explorer, that is.
Internet Explorer 9 does support GPU acceleration. They're starting to accelerate graphics and dynamic content on the web with your graphics processor, so your video card helps out. Chrome also has this option, I might mention. However, it's hidden. By default, when you run Google Chrome, 3D acceleration is not turned on. If you do some research on the internet, you will find that you actually have to run your Chrome exe with a little switch to allow the GPU acceleration in Chrome. And I could tell you what that switch is. I guess I could show you. I have.
And it's important to stress. I'm sorry, Joe.
Go ahead.
It's important to stress that the GPU acceleration in Chrome is actually, I think it's exclusive to the beta version. Am I not correct?
I think it is, and it also supports. Yeah, and it also supports a different standard, I do believe, than Microsoft's. Although we'll have to look that up, but I think it's some kind of WebGL. So they went to GL format, and I'm sure Microsoft probably might support that as well, but probably has their own, form of that. But so in Chrome, this might be a little hard to show you. Let me find my Chrome. You have to go to your properties on your shortcut. And at the very end here, where the target is, you got the full path to the exe. You have to enable, it's -enable -accelerated -compositioning. And that's the only way that I know of currently to turn that on in Google Chrome.
Yes.
All right, so yeah, it looks like this checkbox changes it to software instead of hardware rendering. I actually don't see an option here to disable the GPU rendering altogether. That's kind of interesting. Maybe it is way down here somewhere.
Yeah. One thing that I have found with Internet Explorer, and I do not dislike the software, and I'm glad that it's around, but I've always found that its options have been a plethora of sort of a maze of web of trying to figure out what's going on. And the one benefit that I found in an enterprise environment with Internet Explorer is the capability to disable features using group policy. And that's not something that we'll discuss in this video, but it's something that's available. I mean, if we didn't want people in an office to see this advanced tab, we could just make it disappear using a Windows server. And that's one of the benefits of Internet Explorer. It's actually, you can have a lot more control over it than the other browsers. Some might say that's because of the security vulnerabilities that have been associated with it, but I would say that it's just Microsoft adding more reasons to buy Windows Server. Now that's something totally out there that we would discuss in some other server-based video, but I just thought I would mention that because it comes up whenever I look at this advanced tab and I think, geez, who the hell is actually going to look through this and use it, to be honest with you.
I do see one more option here. I'm not sure if it was available in 8. I don't remember seeing this enable alternative codecs and HTML5 media elements.
No, that was not there in 8.
And that's kind of a security risk of some sorts, because if somebody knows how to exploit a third-party codec you have on your system, that would be a way for them to do it. I can see why it's actually an option to enable or disable it. But
that's correct. That was not there. Actually, always used ClearType for HTML was there instead.
Right. They moved them around a little bit here, it looks like.
Yeah.
Smart Screen Filter is still here, it looks like. Or is that the new one, Mike?
Well, yeah, it's still there, but the Smart Screen Filter is upgraded, and the Smart Screen Filter is more concerned about your downloading habits. And it's probably, as you said, because of the drive-by attacks, Joe. I mean, how many people do we know that don't know that much about computers who have sort of been victimized in some degree by going to the wrong site and clicking on the wrong stuff and thinking that they're downloading an antivirus that's going to cure them of some ill through a phishing attack, and they wind up downloading a virus. And that's probably what that's about.
All right. And I've also heard about a tracking protection feature. Do we have any information on that?
That is an odd feature that I think we're still disseminating. Do you have any information about it yourself, Joe?
Yeah, I've read some information, but I'm trying to find it here, and I don't see it. Basically, here it is, tracking protection. And the way that this is supposed to work, it's a privacy feature, and it allows consumers like you and me, or professionals, to opt in and choose sites that we deem as quote-unquote safe. And I guess the whole idea here is Microsoft is working on building a list of sites that are supposedly safe. I don't know how well that's going to be. It's opt-in. You don't have to do this. Let's see what happens when we click on the settings here. So you have your own... Looks like you can do multiple lists. Kind of interesting. This is the default settings here, so we don't have any items. Actually, it looks like by default it is blocking some Google Analytics stuff. That's kind of interesting. Little Microsoft.
Yeah, why would you block Google Analytics?
Yeah, why would Microsoft want to do that? So it looks like you can add sites, and you can actually add certain, and it looks like in their case they've blocked, this is the main Google Analytics script that runs on many web pages.
And for those of you who don't know, Google Analytics is actually used by website owners to gather data on it's aggregate data. Where are your users from? What web browser are they using? What continent are they from? And this is an important service for website owners. As a matter of fact, on Windows 7 Forms, we use it. Right. And that's kind of weird that that's blocked because it's not intrusive whatsoever. And there's a privacy policy governing its use.
Right. And if any of you guys just noticed that block sign come up there, that was actually a different block program I have enabled on my computer. It blocks it at the host's level. So, but this is blocking the JavaScript they use, and I don't know what this picture is here.
Are you sure that's by default?
That's by default. I did not add these.
That's a crazy move. That's definitely a competitive move.
Maybe they'll remove it in the final build.
Well, no, because I have the tracking protection here, Joe, and when I go to tracking protection, I don't see it there.
Well,
I double click on my personalized list, and it's not listed there.
Really?
Is it possible that Internet Explorer 9 downloaded that from somewhere else?
It is possible because I'll tell you, I read one article on this feature, and it actually said that this personal tracking was there earlier. And I'll tell you what, earlier, Mike, before we went on video, I was looking at IE9 on this same machine. And if I remember right, I brought this dialog up, and those sites were not on here. So when you visit multiple sites that contain content from the same provider, such as map advertisement or web measurement tools, maybe it's learning them.
Do you really think so? But why would they want to block Google Analytics, which is a service from a legitimate resource? I mean, we're not talking about Joe's internet, fixits.com. Not using Joe in a bad way, but you know what I'm saying, Joe.
Let's bring up a couple websites and see if it adds to the list. I'm not sure, actually.
Yeah, I'm checking that out on my end because obviously two people trying this is better than one, but that's pretty heinous if that's the case. Right. It would be a clear indication that Microsoft is completely at war with Google if they're blocking that by default.
But I'll tell you what, that's exactly what I read in the article about that feature earlier. That it was
somewhere though. That's got to be hard coded in though. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that's a learning. Is that really an algorithm that learns? I mean, because we all know that Google Analytics is trusted. It's a script that runs on millions of websites. Millions. I mean, know runs analytics.
Right.
And that's what?
Oh, but did you know? Look, Mike. The list is disabled. Notice by default it was disabled.
The list itself.
Yep. Now I can enable it. Okay.
Right. So that's something you have to enable.
Yeah.
It's not that it's tracking stuff, but it's not there by default. You have to enable it.
Okay. Well.
But if you this is the danger of some software like this. If you let it take over for you. You're sort of enabling, you're being the enabler for the software to block all sorts of things. You don't even know what the hell's going on. And this isn't just the case with Microsoft, but with IE9, they've really struggled, and they've tried, I can definitely see that they've tried hard to make this software competitive with Chrome and with Firefox, but I'm not too convinced that it's superior to either. I think that it may match it in some degree. But anyway, go ahead. I'll expand more about that theory later on.
All right.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. And we're currently at Dell's support site. Now, support.dell.com is used by anyone that owns a Dell computer that wants to update their drivers. Dell uses an ActiveX control. An ActiveX is a platform used by Microsoft Corporation and has been for many years. And what this ActiveX control does is identify your system, and it is able, by identifying your system, to find the model number, serial number, and information that it needs in order to look up your computer and find the updates that you may need for your computer. This includes drivers, software, and BIOS updates. Now, Joe has found something pretty interesting, and this is almost a showstopper sort of issue. Go ahead, Joe. Tell us what you found.
All right, so I've already visited this site before. I have already initially installed the ActiveX control that's required for this to look up my service tag. I am on a Dell system. And we're going to look at this new feature if we look under the safety menu. And it's off by default. You do have to turn it on. Interesting, tracking protection. I turned that on earlier, Mike. Why unchecked again?
I don't know, but that's...
Oh, okay. Never mind. I did this.
Oh, it's not turning on by its own.
Yeah, okay. All right. So anyways, so this ActiveX filtering. And if you check it, the idea behind it is it filters ActiveX controls. Now, when I read about it, I thought it was going to allow a whitelist, but now that I'm looking, I'm not so sure. Well, anyway, we turned on... You want to start with or without, Mike, the ActiveX?
Let's show what you encounter by default.
Okay, so by default, the first time you visit this page, you would have been told to install an ActiveX control. I've already done this. It's a couple clicks, install, and then you have to accept. So now this would be like you're visiting the site, you've got the control installed, and oh, it finds your service tag, it forwards you to the page. It doesn't detect your operating system, but this is the important part right here. Finds your service tag. So this lets an IT professional or a home user quickly find the drivers for this specific Dell workstation.
And mind you, I can't stress enough that this is used all the time. It's used by every IT guy that works on a Dell computer. It's used by anyone that owns a Dell computer that knows how to update their stuff. So this is an extremely important website that specifically uses ActiveX. If you don't know your service tag, you need to use ActiveX to access this site.
And some people just use it because they don't want to crawl behind their computer. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the service tag on Dell computers are on the back of the system. But
all right,
anyway,
so back to the main Dell screen here, and I have turned on the ActiveX filtering feature. And we're going to go do the same thing we just did. Find the drivers for our system. And if you notice up here, up by the address bar, some content is filtered on this site. So it's saying that ActiveX is being filtered. We can turn off, but let's just see what happens with the filtering on if we hit Find Service Tag. Yes, we have to agree to the license agreement. Now, normally, right now, what would pop up is well, if it's your first time going to the site, it would pop up, ask you to install the ActiveX control.
Right, and all previous versions of Internet Explorer.
But if you look, it didn't ask, it didn't do nothing, and it did not find the service tag.
Oh, Joe, did we mention before how important this site is?
Oh, yeah, I use it all the time at work. Most of our systems we work on is Dell, so it's easier for me to go find the drivers this way.
Right, and by default, you can't even use the site in this way with ActiveX.
Well, not by default.
Right, and you know the idea. I think they marketed IE9, or they are still, with this ActiveX filtering, and so what is ActiveX filtering the same as disabling ActiveX by default?
I think that's what it is. So I just told it to not filter ActiveX, and now let's see how the web page should properly display.
And we discussed how important this service tag is, correct?
Right. Absolutely. See, this is what you normally would get. Dell wants to install this Dell System Lite, and I have to hit install.
Right, and notice that it's on the bottom instead of on the top. They've changed the location.
Yeah, that's a little confusing for users.
Yeah, and if you have RoboForm, which is a password manager, or other things that display on the bottom of the screen, because I used to display notices on the top, this creates a problem with rendering.
So now I'm getting a user account control prompt to install it, and I'll click yes. So far I've had to hit install. Now yes. I'm wondering if it's going to make me hit another yes before it finds my tag here.
Right.
It's thinking pretty hard.
It's important to discuss the background of ActiveX, I suppose. Oh, look at that. It's still looking for it. Yeah, ActiveX has been abused by a lot of malware sites, phishing sites, and it's a proprietary Microsoft platform in the sense that it cannot be used by any other browser than Internet Explorer, and it's it's Microsoft software is dependent on it. Microsoft websites are dependent on it. Companies like Dell require it. And there we go.
There we go. So then there's a lot of pages out there that are very now what the heck now
that are very important and use ActiveX.
Now look at that, Mike. Why
is it grayed out?
Not only is it grayed out, but my tracking. Oh, now it's.
Oh, now it's not. What?
That was interesting. I think the page had not loaded all the way yet.
Yeah. This is unusual. This is the problem. ActiveX has always been the Achilles heel of Internet Explorer. It's been one of its great benefits if only people would adopt it more in a legitimate way. But what has been preventing people from adopting it in a legitimate way is the security vulnerability involved with ActiveX inherently.
Right. And for people that don't understand ActiveX, what it is when you install an ActiveX control, that piece of code can literally do whatever it wants on your system as your user. So if you're an admin user and you run an ActiveX control, it could literally delete files off your computer. It can do anything a normal computer program can do. So there's the security risk.
Absolutely. And a company like Dell here, they use it obviously to gather your service tag to identify your computer for support. Now, if you go over to a random website that's intent on using ActiveX to damage your computer or to install a rootkit on your computer, this will create a major security flaw if you accept the fact that you want to run this ActiveX control, and therefore you are now garnishing your information and your control over your computer over to a third-party ActiveX control that will allow for system compromisation and ultimately security vulnerability.
Right. I think we've covered pretty much all of the new features. Can you think of any other ones, Mike?
Well, we've looked at most of what Internet Explorer 9 has to offer, and I think that we should discuss its complexity, how it matches up to Firefox and Chrome, and what we both feel, both as IT professionals and as end users, about its future and its current state. Obviously, this is a release candidate, but it's feature complete, and that means the final version will not be far away. So let's sort of go into that, unless we have any other features that we really want to take a look at. We're basically looking at a user interface, in my opinion, that mimics the user interface of Chrome. As a matter of fact, it just looks so much like Chrome that it's sort of repulsive in the fact that I really have a deep respect for Microsoft and the work that they've done over the last 20, 30 years. And when I look at this piece of software, I'm wondering why couldn't they come up with something more original? But when we do look at the internals of the software, we also come up with these sort of issues. ActiveX, smart filter, GeoIP, location. Let's talk a little bit more about that, Joe.
About
the internals of the software and how they compare with applications like Firefox and Chrome, which are basically they've taken over. IE destroyed Netscape back in the 90s, and Netscape had 90% of the market share when the internet first started. And when we look at what happened to IE when that came out, it was installed on every Microsoft operating system, and it basically annihilated Netscape. Now we see a resurgence where browsers like Chrome and Firefox have taken a big step in taking over Internet Explorer's market share, and that's primarily because of their security notability. Everyone thinks if I install Firefox or if I install Chrome, my computer will be more secure. And here we see Microsoft trying to accomplish that same objective, trying to make the browsing experience more secure while retaining features like ActiveX, or retaining features like Smart Filter. And I want to know what you think about that, Joe. What do you think if you were going to use a computer with a web browser for day-to-day use? What would you use and why compared to Internet Explorer 9?
All right, so I guess first of all, you're asking about my user preference, and my personal preference is Chrome, and my number one reason for that is just the speed. I like the speed when it starts up. I like the speed of creating a new tab, and for me, for my day-to-day use, when I'm looking up information, I'm an IT tech, I'm constantly Googling stuff. I constantly have 10, 15 tabs open at once. Google is just, the Chrome platform is awesome for that. There's a couple things I don't like about IE. A lot of times when IE crashes, there goes all my tabs. And yeah, it can try to recover them later, which is a feature they also robbed off of Firefox and Chrome. I think it can now recover tabs. But in Chrome, if a tab crashes, I simply have the option to close that tab or even stop that plugin. So, yeah, for my day-to-day usage, it's Chrome. But in my corporate environment, most of my customers are Microsoft customers running Microsoft servers and Microsoft operating system, and they're stuck with IE. Most of that is because they use group policy, and they use Windows Update servers to push updates. So IE is really what they use. Also, they're kind of stuck using IE because some of their software is from Microsoft, like SharePoint Server, things like that use some ActiveX controls, so they're stuck, unfortunately, using the Microsoft platform. We administrated it through group policy and locked down most of the features because we don't want them to be exploited. So we take IE and dumb it down, and if you look, we were mentioning this earlier, Mike, if you go to the advanced options here in Internet Explorer, there is probably well close to 100 settings in here, I would imagine now. I mean, and your average user doesn't know what these are, has no idea. And guess what the first thing a piece of malware is going to do is go through here and just, take off all the security.
Right.
I mean, these are just cryptic things that your average user would have no idea.
And mind you, Microsoft is famous for the hover over on, when you have a mouse over and there's usually some sort of short description of what it does. I don't think we see any of that in that advanced tab.
Now we have a little question mark here, but when I click on it, I actually get I don't get... Normally what this little question mark does is let you click an item and then pick what the... And look, topic not found. Now this is a release candidate, so possibly...
We hope that they're working on the Microsoft compressed HTML help file.
Yeah, right? That's not good.
So let's. I'd like to give my 2 cents there too.
Okay.
I feel the same way in a certain respect in that, I've seen offices and worked in offices and worked for offices that require Internet Explorer for SharePoint, for accessing sites like Dell. And you see that this is sort of an encumbrance. Group policy, which is administered through Windows Server, allows for extensive control of Internet Explorer. But the problem is really, Internet Explorer can be confusing at times, And that's really where its Achilles heel is. You see, as Joe said, you see hundreds of options. And what it all comes down to is this security theater, in my opinion. And it's unfortunate that I have to say that because I have a deep respect for Microsoft and their software. But I just find that this does not match up with Chrome or Firefox. I primarily use all three browsers. As a website owner, I have to have the most popular browsers on my computer in order to keep my site accessible when I add new features and when I change the site around. And so when I'm looking at different sites, I need to have IE9. I need to have a virtual machine running IE8. And I need to have Chrome and I need to have Firefox. And when I personally have a preference, I tend to use Chrome or Firefox. Firefox primarily for the plugins, but Chrome primarily for the performance and the usability that's just fantastic. When you look at Internet Explorer, they're sort of playing catch up. And I think the main problem is that they promised back in Internet Explorer 8's launch time, specifically there was a promise made to reporters that Internet Explorer 8 would always have feature updates. And we never saw really any feature updates for Internet Explorer, and it's just a contrast of how these browsers have been developed. Microsoft takes a traditional approach to developing software, while Mozilla and Google take a totally different approach, which is one of open source, open development, having hundreds of development builds during the development process, whereas Microsoft will release technical previews and release candidates and betas, but you know, not much has changed. And if anything, it's become a little draconian as far as how do we manage these features and what do we do with them. Joe?
Yeah, I'd have to agree there. I'm going back to the advanced settings here. You'd be surprised how many technical support calls I get from someone. I can't open PDFs anymore, or I can't get to this certain site, and it all comes down to the advanced settings in Internet Explorer being set wrong. Whether it's not accepting a third-party SSL certificate it's supposed to, or there's some of the cryptic settings in there. Well, you got to set them one way for this site and one way for this site. So it is really annoying. It really is. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think to summarize it, we like Internet Explorer 9. We like looking through its features, but in practicality, we don't like the fact that we have to deploy it to every single computer on a Windows network.
Well, and you know, it's funny because IE, some users may not know this, but your computer, lots of programs that you have installed right now probably require parts of IE because they're now so corely embedded into the operating system. If you have a piece of software like Skype, for instance, Skype has an option in there to look at your subscription status, and it launches a little web browser window. Well, guess what's rendering that? It's IE. So
that's correct.
You never really can get away from it. So it's here to stay, and hopefully they increase easier ways to control the security on it.
To me, the best way they would go about that would be to open up development completely, but judging by Microsoft,
not going to happen.
They're not going to do that.
No.
But it's an attempt, and it's something. The one thing I don't hope is that we don't see a feature update. You know, there's a difference between security updates and feature updates. My hope is that with this browser, that we see feature updates soon, and that we don't just see hundreds of security updates and that's it. And that's really what we saw with IE8, with IE7. But the fact of the matter is, you know, in enterprise environments, when you see that everyone is using, and you're a technician or an administrator, and you see that everyone is using IE6 or IE7, the natural goal is to upgrade to IE, the latest IE. And this is because of the security vulnerabilities associated with the previous browsers. But anyway, go ahead, Joe.
All right, we're going to run a couple more tests here. These tests, keep in mind, are designed by Microsoft. However, they do run on the other browsers. Well, at least most of them do. Some of them are speed demos. They show the advantage of each browser has its own JavaScript engine. JavaScript is used for all sorts of dynamic content on the web. It also tests some GPU stuff, which if you remember right, I did enable GPU on my Chrome earlier, so it's running with GPU enabled. So is 9, IE 9 here. So we're going to run what's called the speed reading test, and I'm going to start it here in Chrome. And all this does is it has a preset couple phrases that the browser has to shuffle through every letter and number in the alphabet to make these phrases up. So as you can see, these tags are flipping down here. And this is mostly JavaScript and the GPU working right now. And it basically flips, and we're not going to get through this entire test in Chrome here. It's going to take way too long. Let me tell you, it takes well over 10-15 minutes to complete on my system. I'll let it go ahead and do the first phrase here. The GPU is rendering, even though it looks simple, there is some calculations going on here. The JavaScript engine is trying to render the answer. And what will happen is once one of these letters hits the appropriate letter for the position on the board, it'll stick. And you notice it takes a while. It has not even calculated a single letter yet.
Now, Joe, does this have anything to do with the fact that you're on a Pentium 4?
It partially, but we'll see how this works on another. Now, see, it found the letter A in a couple spots here. See that? So the A stuck.
Can we look at CPU usage while this is going on?
CPU usage is 100% right now on a P4.
Right.
So you get the idea behind this, though. There's several of these boards that this has to go through before it completes the test.
Now, will these tests run on other browsers, or is this specifically for IE9? Because this is a Microsoft website.
You're watching Chrome right now. Chrome is the one rendering.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I'm not going to let it finish.
Unfortunately, I couldn't tell the difference between both browsers.
Right. And I'm not going to let it finish, but I can tell you Chrome takes 10-15 minutes on mine. And you could say that partially the reason is Microsoft designed this, but mostly it's JavaScript. There may be a little Microsoft optimization in there. But this, well, I'm going to close it now because it's going to take forever. Now, I'm going to run the same thing in IE9 here.
So IE9 loads JavaScript faster. Oh,
now,
there we
you
go.
can even hear the sound difference.
Oh, yeah. But see, in practicality, what is, I mean, you know, do we really care about this? I mean, that's one issue.
Yeah.
And I hate to play devil's advocate in that way and be such a, you know, such a downer, but, you know, I mean, do we really care that this is the case? I mean,
if you ask me, I think the indication of this is Microsoft has a lot more time to research the JavaScript engine, and let's not forget your GPU rendering is using your Microsoft operating system to render. So they probably have a little legs up over Chrome in a couple areas.
Right.
You know, does this mean anything? Not really. It just means this test runs better in one browser than the other. Now, let me tell users, the ACID test actually has functionality to it. This test does not. It's strictly speed rendering. How fast does your browser render this? ACID actually tests how well does your browser render content to perform to the standards, the web standards. So,
exactly. See, I see a couple problems with this, and it involves the fact that JavaScript is something that's used for functionality and not necessarily the fastest calculation.
Right.
You know, I mean, you know, JavaScript is used for functionality, not calculation. But this is a debatable issue, I think. We don't know what standard, how this has been created. And,
right.
You know.
You can see it's getting 32 frames per second versus Chrome's 10 as well. But yeah, we'll close out of that now. Well, what's the next subject, Mike?
Well, Joe, we've gone through most of the core issues, and I think we've sort of gone off on a few tangents of our own. Did you have any recommendations about looking at this browser and our overall conclusion in general? Would you like to finalize our opinion, or are there more issues that you want to cover?
I think that's about it. I don't see any. The thing is, I don't see these safety features. From already testing the ActiveX filtering, it seems a little quirky. I've noticed some inconsistency there. The tracking protection, that's to be determined depending on these lists and how well they're managed, and will users actually keep them up to date? Will they enable them? Not so sure about that one either. It's not like the old smart filtering where it kind of went out to Microsoft's site and looked to see, hey, is this site on the list? You know.
Yeah. I mean, generally, as far as that list, people administrating it, chances of that, you know, probably about 1% of the population will use that feature, unless you're on a corporate network.
Right. I'm still concerned about, and they have to fix this, in my opinion. They have to turn this never allow. To send your IP to a Microsoft server along with your wireless, the surrounding Wi-Fi points is just ridiculous.
I have severe reservations about that feature, and I feel that it is mostly security theater, but since it does interact with Microsoft servers that increasingly try to triangulate your position, man, that is something else. I don't see how that benefits the community at large.
Yeah, I mean, the only time that geolocation to me comes into sense is like when I'm on my Android phone. And, of course, I'm out and about, and it's tracking me with GPS, and maybe I have a couple feature-rich applications that benefit from my location on the map. But, face it, IE is mostly used by people at desktops, some laptops, yes, but why... I don't know why to start including that feature and not enabling the security on it by default. That's a little concerning.
Right. And in regards to the comments I made before, Joe, here's our user map, and we use this without any IE protocols whatsoever.
Right. So this works whether you're in Chrome, Firefox, whether you have a firewall. Nothing's going to protect you from this.
Absolutely. And we're not, mind you, the only thing that protects you from this is our desire not to include your username on each, on each connection. And this is just a sample of about 500 connections, the latest 500 that have connected. And so you'll see someone here who's an administrator.
Click on Indiana. Go find me.
Oh, wait. Hold on. You want to do that real quick?
Yeah, let's because we're logged in right now on my machine, so I should appear on this map.
You certainly probably will.
And this will take a little bit because my machine is a P4, but we're going to zoom in here. Actually, my machine's usually not that bad. We have a lot going on here right now.
Yeah, and mind you, this has no connection to the feature that's been added in 99. None whatsoever.
Well, it hasn't tracked me yet, Mike.
Yeah, it's probably, it's an array, okay? So it'll just randomly choose who it's going to show. That's intentional to protect people's privacy. We don't want everyone to show up at the same time, and we certainly don't want people to be able to be tracked by their username or user ID or anything like that. It's simply to just show that we have this capability, and there's a lot that could be used in the future for it, but would we want to identify who someone is through this feature? Absolutely not. But when we look at the IE9 feature, we're starting to see something that's a little creepy, and that's, this idea of, let's use Microsoft Service to figure out exactly where you are, and let's show it to whoever wants to see it. And the fact that that's not disabled by default, to me, is very concerning, especially when Microsoft is a company that pioneered security features like Kerberos and IPsec, and when you start to think about certain things like that, you wonder what the hell is going on here?
Right.
As far as let's reveal your location to everyone.
Right. I'm looking to see if the array has added me yet, but it hasn't. But that's okay. I've actually seen this before.
Yeah, it's on a cache delay too, but it would eventually show you. It wouldn't exactly tell you who you are either.
But and this is just using your IP address. Any website can do this, and for me, it finds me about 1.5 miles from my actual location. So it's using, when IPs are purchased through an ISP or through an IP, they register the geolocation, it gets put in a database, and I think almost every IP is now geolocatable.
Right. And IP addresses are, they're universal. It's like a telephone number, and there's no way to get around it. So this idea that, if you disable this,
the only way to get around it would be to use a proxy server for every web page you visit.
Exactly, and that means connecting through another server somewhere else to connect. It's basically a middleman, man in the middle sort of use.
Well, let's sum up, Mike. Where can people go to find more information about Internet Explorer 9? Do we have a forum open or a section in the forum for that?
Well, on Windows7forums.com, you can use our software forum, which is Windows 7 software.
All right.
You can use Windows 7 support, and you can use Windows 7 discussion. Now, we don't have a specific Internet Explorer 9 forum. We also have a software updates forum. And there is a thread involving Internet Explorer 9 there. If you go under downloads, go up, please.
Forum.
Joe. Downloads there.
Oh, downloads. Okay.
Downloads tab, yeah.
Okay.
And we have Internet Explorer 9.
All
That'll bring you to our primary Internet Explorer 9 thread. And so you can discuss most of what we have in this thread. This thread is basically about telling you, hey, what's going on with IE9? And, the latest, of course, is the fact that the release candidate's out there. Some comments here and there from various individuals. And the idea is, you can discuss this pretty much everywhere on the web. But at Windows7forums.com, we appreciate all different kinds of opinions. Unfortunately, I feel that I'm very disappointed by IE9 and what it could have been, but there's always that chance that it could improve in the future.
Right. Do we have an official, we probably don't have an official release date, do we? But I think haven't they officially told us pretty much what quarter of this year?
Well, actually, that's a good question. I'm not specifically. I've been tracking Service Pack 1 more than anything else.
Right.
If I look up Internet Explorer 9, let me see if I can find some information for you very quickly.
Now, on a disrelated note, since you brought up the Service Pack, we did finally confirm that the build numbers are the final version, right?
Yes, the build numbers for Service Pack 1 are the final versions. We were able to provide Service Pack 1 to our members on January 14th. It will not be available to TechNet until tomorrow, which is February 16th, and it will not be available to the general public for another week after that. So if you want to use Service Pack 1 and preview it, you have plenty of time. Service Pack 1 has been sent to OEMs, which are original equipment manufacturers. Those would be companies like Dell, HP, Gateway. And you are able to access this final RTM and use it because it's going to come up on Windows Update anyway. But you'll be able to use it well in advance of others by going to that thread on Windows7forums.com.
All right. Well, that's good to know. I see it under the downloads link here. I remember I was part of that launch. It was a very exciting day.
Yes, and you contributed very much to the information that we were able to provide to our members. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've analyzed Internet Explorer 9 as much as we can. And my final thoughts, as Joe will present his, are that Internet Explorer 9 has a lot to offer, but unfortunately, it really is Microsoft's interpretation of the World Wide Web and what web standards should be. And we've seen that all too often with Microsoft. Something like ActiveX is not a certified web standard. It's not something that W3C validates in any way or recognizes. And what we really want to see more from is less security controls and more security confinement. And that's how I feel about the browser. I feel like it has a lot of potential, but still it's lagging behind with Firefox and Chrome. Certainly, I will use it myself when I need to go to a Microsoft Certified Professional website, or when I need to use a Microsoft associated website. I will use it because I need to use ActiveX, which is a proprietary programming language that is specifically designed by Microsoft and is not available for general use. And so I will use it because I have no choice. But in general, when we look at Internet Explorer 9, we don't know when it will be released. The nature of a release candidate is that this is a feature-complete build. It's almost done, and they're looking for something. They can't find any bugs on their own, so they're releasing it to the public, trying to see if there's any showstopper bugs or any bugs that would require them to create additional builds. In the rare event that there are no bugs found, this release candidate will then be proclaimed as the final build. But with Microsoft, that's very unlikely. Most likely they'll find a bug or something like that, and there'll be a final build that's released as the final version. Unfortunately, I'm somewhat disappointed with Internet Explorer 9. I think a lot more could have been done, and I think that has a lot to do with the development and the way it's developed. It's still closed source. The community is not welcome to participate in the development of the software unless specifically given access to technical previews and release candidates, and even then conjecture is the order of the day. But in general, Internet Explorer has a long way to go as far as matching Chrome and Firefox, and they're going to keep losing market share, I believe. And I hate to be this person that's down on Internet Explorer's luck, but the fact is, it's outwitted and outmatched by Chrome and by Firefox. Joe, would you like to give your opinion, please?
Yeah, sure. I use Microsoft products every day. Let me start with that. In the corporate environment, and a lot of it's because it's there. IE is built into the operating system. It's what we can control through our Windows servers. So I don't see IE. I see it losing market share, but it will never go away. It's going to be there because there are more Windows users than there are anything else. It's going to be there. I don't hate the product, but like I said, I'm an IT professional. I'm very knowledgeable in tons of different Microsoft products, and I don't even use the product myself. So it tells you a little bit about, but most of my concerns are speed, a little bit security too, but I don't visit any sites that your average user probably gets infected from. But yeah, Mike, I think we did a pretty good job.
Yeah, let's not forget the primary use of the internet, and a lot of people don't like to recognize or discuss it. Number one use of the internet is pornography. The second is shopping. So, you know, most of these viruses and security issues are from people going to less than reputable websites. And we can't forget that. And Microsoft's attempt at providing security with Internet Explorer 9 is quite admirable. I am also 7-time certified in information technology, and I completely agree with Joe about the need that it will be used. And hopefully, my hope is that by looking at this review, a business will not be compelled to stay with IE8. By all means, upgrade to IE9. But at the same time, realize that the software is flawed, as is most. But in a certain vein, you can't control Chrome remotely like you can with Internet Explorer in a business environment. And so in a business environment, you want to have Internet Explorer 9, the latest version, installed, and you want to be able to control those settings. But other than that, I think we've covered everything, and obviously everyone's going to have a different opinion. And so I just think more could have been done to simplify the browser, to make it more appealable and more original, because currently it just looks like a Chrome knockoff. But anyway, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, it does just look like a Chrome knockoff, but I'm kind of glad it does because I enjoy Chrome's interface. So I'm glad they stole it. Yeah, really glad. So I think.
Yeah, mind you, we all have a certain respect for Microsoft, given what they've done for the computer industry. But with their browsers, this is a touchy subject, and they have a long way to go with IE, and it's definitely a long fought battle.
Right. All right. Well, I think we're done for this time. We'll try to review a different product next time, Mike.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you all for watching this long-winded video. And be sure to visit Windows7Forums.com for the latest information and updates on Microsoft Windows, Internet Explorer, and most Microsoft products. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.